I'm 14. It was yesterday, Halloween. My parents were out with their friends for the night, so I was all alone, just handing out candy to trick-or-treaters. I wasn't too worried since it's only kids trick-or-treating. We had what seemed like thousands of decorations, so a lot of kids came to our house. There was always one kid that came every year. She even remembered my name. She was the only one who didn't beg for more candy. The first knock on the door was her. She said, "Trick or treat." After she left, she said, "Happy Halloween, Katie." I said, "Happy Halloween" back. Her costume was a witch, which was funny because my black cat came walking up to the door like he knew it was a witch. I laughed and shut my door before he could get out. It was warm out. I live in Georgia. And because it was Friday, kids were out later than usual. The night was normal except for one man dressed like Michael Myers. His face was fully covered, but I could tell he was a grown man because of his voice and how tall he was, at least 6'4". He said "trick or treat" in a creepy, raspy voice. I still gave him candy and brushed it off, telling myself maybe he was trick-or-treating for a younger kid. I went back to watching horror movies. About an hour later, I heard banging on the door. Not knocking, banging. I thought it was strange since it was already 9, but I still got up and went to the door. I figured it was probably some unfortunate kid whose parent had to work late. When I opened the door, I almost screamed. It was that same man dressed like Michael Myers. He said "trick or treat" again, but in a much more sinister voice. I was creeped out and just wanted him to go away. I gave him candy and locked the door. I sat down on the couch and called my parents. They didn't answer. I left a voicemail, still no response. I sighed and went back to watching TV. A little later, I heard another knock. This time, I looked out the window first. It was that man again. I decided to call my friend and tell her about it, but she didn't answer either, probably asleep since it was around 10. I was starting to get really nervous, but I stayed up because I knew I was too scared to sleep. Eventually, I got bored of TV and started scrolling social media. Finally, around midnight, I texted my parents asking when they'd be home. No response. After a while, I fell asleep. It was around 2 in the morning when I woke up. I had to go to the bathroom, but I heard a tapping sound. I went to investigate. I didn't see anything. On my way back to my room, as I was walking up the stairs, I heard something crash in the kitchen. I turned around and quietly crept into the kitchen to see what it was. I saw something creep past the window. The crash hadn't been inside, it was right outside. I ran and shut the window. Relieved no one had crawled through it, I quickly walked around the whole house making sure everything was locked, even the windows. The front door was unlocked from earlier because of trick-or-treaters, and I had forgotten to lock it before bed. After locking it, I ran back upstairs and slammed my bedroom door shut. I immediately went to grab my phone and realized it was downstairs on the charger. I took a deep breath, quietly opened my door, tiptoed down the stairs, grabbed my phone, and ran back up to my room. I didn't even turn on the light. I didn't want anyone to know I was home. I called my parents again. Still no answer. I was terrified. I peeked through my blinds and it was too dark to see anything. But then I saw a light flash on, like a flashlight. It pointed up toward my bedroom window. I let go of the blinds quickly, closing them. My heart was racing. I sat down on my bed and tried calling my parents again. Still nothing. I wanted to grab a weapon, but I was too scared to move. Finally, I decided to run downstairs and grab something for protection. We didn't have any weapons, so the closest thing I could find was a broom. I grabbed it and ran back to my bedroom, locking the door this time. I sat on my bed, shaking. I tried calling my friends, no one answered. We don't even have any protective pets to scare someone away. Then I heard loud banging downstairs. I wanted to call the police, but I didn't think they'd come since nothing had happened yet. I knew I was way too scared to fall asleep. I held the broom, trembling when I heard a window downstairs shatter. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, but before I could, my phone died. I was home alone, and someone had broken in. I heard footsteps on the stairs. They grabbed my doorknob and started jiggling it. Then they knocked. When I didn't answer, they walked away. A few minutes later, they came back. This time, it sounded like they were trying to break down the door. It started to shake as they banged on it. I finally yelled, "Leave now!" I have a weapon and the police are on their way. That was a double lie. I didn't have a real weapon and the police weren't coming. But I hoped they'd believe me. Shockingly, they did. I heard them walk down the stairs. But then, they came back up again and said, "Open the door." It was the same voice and the man dressed like Michael Myers. "Leave now, Michael Myers," I screamed. I'm sure he could tell from my voice that I was a scared 14-year-old girl. He already knew what I looked like. And now that he was inside the house, he knew I was alone. He stood there for what felt like forever before walking away. I was shaking. I heard him walk into my parents' room. I gripped the broom tighter, ready to use it. He stood outside my door again, then walked away. I finally got up and searched for my phone charger. I found one, plugged in my phone, and sat on my bed. Every few seconds, I checked if it had enough charge to call 911. After about 10 minutes, I thought he was gone. I tiptoed out of my room and walked downstairs. No one was there. The window was broken, but nothing was stolen. I checked my parents' room. Still nothing taken. That made me more worried. If he wasn't there to steal, what did he want? I went back upstairs and called the police. 5 minutes later, they arrived. When they came back from searching the house, one of them said, "We found a large knife on the floor outside your bedroom door, but no one's here. They must have gotten away." My heart dropped. After the police left, I tried calling my parents again. No answer. It was about 5 in the morning. I assumed they were probably staying overnight at their friend's house. I sat on my bed angry. Angry that they weren't there. Angry that they didn't answer. Angry that they'd think I was lying. Then, a knock at the front door. I ran to the window and looked out and wanted to scream. It was that same man, dressed like Michael Myers. I watched him walk to the side of the house where the broken window was. I ran back to my room and locked the door. I still had the broom. I kept calling my parents 20 times, but they never answered. I gave up and just lay down. Even though I knew I wasn't going to sleep, I shut my eyes and tried not to think about it, until I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. They stopped right outside my door. I held up the broom ready, but they didn't knock. They just stood there. After 5 long minutes, they walked away. I've never been so mad at my parents in my life. I turned toward the wall, closed my eyes, and eventually fell asleep. When I woke up, it was 10 a.m. I called my parents again. This time they finally answered. I screamed at them over the phone. They told me I was being dramatic. They didn't even believe me, then they hung up. I went downstairs to make breakfast and froze. There was a man standing in the kitchen. I ran back upstairs and called the police. When they came, they found the man and arrested him. As they led him away, his mask fell off. He had short gray hair, brown eyes, and looked about 60. He looked at me and smiled, a sinister smile. I was horrified. After they left, I felt a little better. But I was still in shock. 2 hours later, my parents finally came home. They were angry at me, even though none of it was my fault. So far, nothing else strange has happened. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell if you would enjoy hearing more spine-chilling stories. A new one will be released every Saturday. If you would like me to read one of yours, you can send it to me bitefear@gmail.com.